That's very similar to what this podcast is about. And, it's the How-To Business Show. So, for people who don't know you, we are recording, we're live, but just kind of kick us off with your backstory, kind of the elevator pitch of how you ended up at WorK Architecture.
Yeah, well, I've always had a little bit of a justified impatience, to get things moving, make things better, change things, fix things. And I had worked at a couple different firms, a wide variety of projects, hospitals to, $2,000 per square foot speakeasies in South Carolina. And I found myself just in building connections in the industry and just being curious and talking to people. That people were starting to reach out to me personally for projects, and me being the good employee, I was presenting them to my bosses, right? And they weren't interested in them because they had their niche they wanted to do. They had their specialty. Mm-hmm. And so after like the third or fourth time, I just like took one of them on myself on the side, and then another one came, and then after like 6 months of doing that, I was like, I need to make a decision. So I quit my job, put my 2 weeks in, and then the next morning I woke up, first day of being on my own, and found out that my wife's pregnant, which is not it was exciting, but I was like just adding to the stress. I didn't even know what the name of their business was going to be yet. I didn't even have an email address. I just had this instinct, this drive in my brain to just do it. And I look back now and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? I drove back and forth between Charleston and Louisville, I could do it in 8 hours. Most people, it takes like 10. I learned every curve on that road, but I did that once a week.
Oh my.
Yeah. Cause I couldn't afford flights. Cause I was starting, my wife was in her medical residency. So, we had no money, and I'm stubborn, so I would never ask anyone for money. And then we had a second kid in Charleston, like a couple years later. We were just there for like 5 years or 4 years. Moved back to Louisville. Actually, while we were there, I realized the importance of I needed a brick and mortar if people were going to believe me. Projects were just floating in. I realized anytime a project would come to me, I would try to document why. Like, why did I get this? Why would they use me? And I started using those things as like a criteria to build upon. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I took on projects I shouldn't have taken on. And I don't think any project we had done in the first 5 years I would take on today. This that we're in here, for example. But you have to do that, to start. It wasn't about money really. It was about just getting the connections. I knew that, a $400,000 renovation today is going to be, if I help that developer, the client the right way, that in 5 years, it might be a $40 million project, which is the case. And some of that, no one ever taught me that stuff. I just was watching it happen, And so, again, another stupid decision, but it paid off. I bought a building for, $30,000 at 19th and on the West End at 19th and Duncan. And at the same time, Gil Holland was really pushing the Portland. He was starting to kind of make some ripples in that area and starting to kind of drum up the attention there, like had happened in Nulu. And he was getting a lot of attention and there was a lot of excitement about it. There still is. But I'm very spreadsheet, like fact driven. Like I try to make decisions with stats or with calling 7 people who have done it for 50 years. That's usually how I do it. And I had like 10 criteria of what I needed office. And a friend of mine worked in the city in their GIS department. He was like the one that would like track the snow plows and all that. I said, here's my 7 things that I need to determine where to put an office. Can you tell me where would this be in Louisville? You can do that now in 5 seconds with AI. And So he calls me back a couple of days later. He's like, the Portland neighborhood, because of the 21st Street exit, because the interstate access was really important. And working in so many different cities and coming back to Louisville, we're so spoiled with how fast we can get around the city. I mean, it's unlike any other city, any city. Like even Lexington takes you 3 times as long to get around. And I don't think people realize that until they go to other cities. But the traffic's amazing. Well, until they shut down 65 in a couple weeks or whatever, or next summer, whenever that is. So we bought this $30,000, like 4,000 square foot, beautiful historic brick building. And I bought it with like a city loan that was a horrible interest rate. And the bank had foreclosed on the building like 6 days prior for $14,000. I was like, that's the business to get into. Just buy these foreclosures and sell them to some idiot like me, and make 15 grand in a week, So, but we put our own sweat and blood and tears and money into this renovation. Made the building, it was a historic preservation project. It won some awards. We used all local labor because we realized like people were asking us, hey, do you need help on the building? I was like, yeah. So we would pay people, just because we were like cash poor, we would pay people by buying their tools for them and thinking that, hey, I'll go ahead and buy, like we had somebody tuck pointing the entire building. And that would normally be, on that building, that probably would have been like $100,000 project, but this guy was doing it in cash for 15 grand and tools. And he was doing a really good job. And I was worried that he was going to get burned out because he was being so good at it. So, and he was really a skilled mason. He really was. He just was out of work because that was 2012 or 2011 or something like that. And, so I told him, I was like, when you finish this, I'll buy you a truck, because he didn't have a truck. He'd walk here. And so he finished, did a great job. I mean, it was such a good job. We got historic tax credits on the whole thing. And I bought him a truck. It was a used truck. It was like down the street, and never saw him again. Took the tools and the truck, and his next project after that was a big dorm renovation for University of Louisville. It's like most people would be pissed. I was like really excited about it. I was like, that's awesome, that now he's doing that. So a lot of it's just people not having the tools they needed. And that's a big thing with my employees is you think of anything you need that is going to make your life easier, more enjoyable, make us money, I'll buy it right now. Which has been one reason. That's actually having the best tools and being able to vet the tools, whether, it's a software program, the computer, whatever it is, a LiDAR scanner, being able to vet those really quick so that you can not waste time training it. And nowadays it's every day there's a new, we'll write all your emails for you. I can name them off, and we'll AI this, AI that. They're all junk. I vet them. So we started building our own basically, because they say they do it, but the amount of involvement you have to do is almost better to just use your craft and do it yourself. So we started building our own, which is what we've called Framework, and it's a pre-development wing of our firm that lets us test fit and jump to a pro forma, and it goes through zoning and everything, so that when we have clients or there's opportunities or I see a vacant lot, I can run it in an hour. I have a full built cell deck, pro forma costs. I know your path of zoning, and that's the same thing I did when I bought my first building, was created those criteria. Criteria number 1 on there in Louisville is, does it have to go through Metro Council? That's literally number 1. And I brought that up yesterday at a developers meeting because I thought it was funny. And I don't care what people say. I'm here for me making the world better, making the architecture better. And in Louisville, it's in Kentucky in general, it's so frustrating because everything's just so stagnant. Everyone's just complacent and settling for less, and we don't. And the unfortunate thing is we're a small firm, and I'm hoping the little ripples and the disruption we're trying to make by being bothered and trying to tell other people, you all should be bothered also. Why are you not frustrated at this? The people that would do this, that would be excited, they're now, they're older and they're bored or they're worn out, and they're trusting like the younger generation. And I'm 40, so I'm not younger anymore, but I try to treat our firm that way with that energy. And so going back to the first building, we bought that, we filled it up. A couple of years later, we sold it, made a couple $100,000 on it. We didn't know where we were going to go, but I've always been so stubborn on not renting because I've been on both sides of that. So we decided to rent another building that was a building we'd done. We rented that just because I wanted to see our growth trajectory. Like, are we going to immediately need to hire 10 people, or are we going to continue? We've been pretty steady at that point. I think we had like 10 people or 8 people at that point. But what was really challenging about our business is like we would be 5 people, 8 people, 10 people early on, and we would be doing the work of like a 50-person firm. And so we had the ability and the capabilities and the tools, and we were able to do that because we'd never specialized. And I loaded our team up with the education, the training, and the tools, the skills, the programs. And we just each person we've hired, it's like 6 months of vetting them, 5 interviews. It's so specific, or at our scale, it's so important to hire the right person because they have to wear so many hats. They have to be a good fit for the office. Since we don't specialize, that someone said at one point specializing is for bugs or for insects, and that's stuck for some reason. I don't know who it was. It might have been old Ben Franklin or something, but I always thought that was interesting because before my firm, I had always been at a firm that was specializing. And so I can remember like some of the first days trying to think of like, what's our mission statement going to be? What's our value statement, our guiding principles, and our business plan. We didn't have one of those until last year, our 12th year, because every time we would do it, we would spend like 2 hours and we'd all get excited about how awesome our firm is and all the cool things we do. We could never define it into like the 4 words without them we wanted them to be legit. Like that's the thing is we're structured very formally so that we can, execute really, challenging projects. And as architects, it's high risk. And there's a lot of people counting on us. But it was really tough to like come up with authentic words that I can use that same thing as a elevator pitch, but I can also use the same thing when talking about our team, like remember what we're about. Mm-hmm. So we have them posted up in our office, and one of them is advancing and guiding and building, driving, their action words. And I don't think we've ever had a day where we're just sitting in the office and we're like, all right, well, it's 4:00. Let's start thinking about packing up. It's usually like, gosh, it's 6:30 already. Like, let's wrap it up. It's usually because our projects are just so exciting and they're fast paced and our clients are amazing. We didn't even know COVID happened. Like everyone was laying people off, and I was, every time they would lay people off, and I'm like, I'm glad I didn't hire that person 2 years ago because they must not have made the cut, And for us, it was actually a really good, I shouldn't say this, it was a horrible thing, but for business, it was really good because it let the people, who were trying really hard, all of a sudden shine out from like the larger, industry, or the larger companies that are kind of taking a bigger share of the industry. They were really struggling. We just kept going. I think it was like a year into COVID before we we need to have like a COVID policy, So, so here we are.
How many employees do you have now?
14.
14.
Yeah, I could use about 20. That's a story for another day. Trying to hire people is really tough.
So you could use an additional 20 or get that 14 to 20.
I'd like to be at 20 right now with our current workload.
6.
But the way we're in our 13th year and we've always grown. We track our KPIs and our OKRs so tightly that we're able to really watch the industry. I didn't realize that most firms don't do this, but I'm just so data driven, and that everything we would track, we would also make those like action items. Like, what do we do with this information? Let's not, if we're logging all of these hours, how can we track it? What can we do? And so we're big on showing off the data about the industry. And we talk with banks and contractors and developers, and we're usually the ones creating our projects. Whether it's just we all know the vacant lot we drive past every day, and we're like, wow, there's no one done anything there. Well, in a couple hours, I'll be like, you should do this. Renderings, and here's your costs, and here's your incentives. I'm doing it with a building downtown with trying to figure out a way to navigate through tax basis for historic preservation tax credits and stacking them with geothermal, and whether part of the building should be an affordable housing so that we can take advantage of 45L tax. So it's a whole, but like our developers don't realize that we're doing that. I'm doing that, and I don't even know who owns the building yet. I'm just thinking, man, if I could show someone how to do it, getting the money to do a project's easy. That's the easy part. It's being able to show them it's safe, it makes sense. You don't have to go through Metro Council. And also, as someone early on in my career was like, don't ever let incentives be what justifies doing the project. Tax rebates, credits, refunds, anything like that. And every city's got different ones. But if you can't do a project with your cash, then move on. I'll find you another one you can. That's what it's about. But yeah, scaling up is always, it's been kind of incremental. Like it's always been a 5-10% increase every year, but then it seems like at 10 people, 12 people, all of a sudden it starts like doubling. And I think there are some stats and some rules of thumb in the industry, like in development and architecture and engineering, where it's like every 9 years you double or something. I don't know. Somebody told me something, and I've just noticed that like the last 2 years, I mean, we just were awarded a project last week that's bigger than our revenue all year. And I can handle that project without actually upstaffing, but I'm using that as an opportunity because we never hire per project. So I'm always hiring, I'm always interviewing, so that when I have the right project load coming up and the right account or clientele, because we put our architects and project managers with a client with a project type that they like and that the client likes, they work well together. They're on that project from day one. So the person putting together the proposal or doing some trace paper sketching is the one also doing contract administration during construction. And they're also the one writing the next proposal. And that's not that's not the most efficient way to do it as a firm, but it's the most enjoyable for us. And I don't know where we'll be in 5 years. We set 1, 3, 5, 10-year goals, and we revisit them every 6 months. And at 6 months every year, we have already hit our first year goal. And so then we start making up new things, and we start pulling from our 3-year. And then we have to I'm sure there's a right way to do this, but we're like, okay, should we change our 10-year then? If we're already, so
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
It's better than the inverse.
Right.
So, I mean, you wear a lot of different hats, which, sometimes you're kind of part lawyer, sometimes you're kind of part engineer, sometimes you're part artist. Like, which one do you find yourself nowadays in the business wearing the most of?
I think it's whichever one I'm most curious about. Okay. I try to find something that bothers me or that I want to learn more about. And for some reason, I'm wired to I want to find out everything about it. And that's where having really good connections with banks, with people that have done this for a long time, and even with younger people who've not done it at all but have a different mindset because they learned it in a different way out of college or whatever. But I like basically trying to figure out how to keep things moving forward. And sometimes it is from a contractual legal side, sometimes it's from a zoning side of things, but it's just problem solving. I've always wanted to be an architect, but I can remember in college getting nervous that I was going to be pigeonholed into building buildings. And I had a studio professor tell me that one of his best friends graduated architecture school and went to New York doing set design. And so then I started kind of researching it. I was like, oh yeah, once you learn how to think like an engineer and an architect, you're problem solving and you're figuring out how to problem solve it incrementally. It's not just, hey, what does A plus B equal? It's trying to even figure out if you need to be answering for A plus B from the beginning. So it's that kind of incremental. And that's how, when we put together a design on a project, it starts like that. It starts with trace paper. And it's stressful because you have all these ideas, but you have to start really high up and start making a decision on what matters at that scale. And that's how I've always kind of thought of growing a business, is the same way. Like start it high up and then kind of move down, and then you zoom in when you're really making those hard decisions.
And trace paper is that kind of transparent paper. You can draw layered on top so you can, okay, yeah.
Yeah, which apparently they don't teach kids to do that in college anymore. I mean,
really?
Yeah. I force staff to get pencils and paper out and draw with a client first, not just get into the computer. Your brain's just thinking in a different way. You can make so many decisions rapidly when you aren't limited by the keyboard commands and a mouse, you know. And it looks like junk. It looks like a kid. I mean, my girls out there, they do better than some of the trace paper stuff we do, but it's making decisions. We scan those in and we record them so we can track, how did this start? You know, how did we make these decisions? And it's always interesting. And it always changes, because not only is the architect learning and growing and kind of trying to refine, we're just answering a need. So we're service providers, and the client has a need. They think they know what the need is, but part of that design process is making sure that is the need, and how can we expand on it and make sure it is the right one. And sometimes that's like locked in early on at trace paper. You might look at it and be like, no, we should be thinking of it this way instead.
It's like the ink blot test. It's like, what do you see now?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
This may be a silly question because I think I know the answer, but I probably don't. When kind of walking through the trace paper process, you said you started really high level. That first layer of trace paper, what goes on that, and then how are you stacking on top of it?
And I say trace paper, it can also be, you know, modeling clay, anything. We don't do enough of it. I would love to do way more of it, because it just expedites the front end decision making of a project. But the first thing is usually like, where's the sun, you know, and how are people using, you know, if it's like an empty lot, for example, where's the sun? That's usually the first one. Because that, with sustainability, and we have all the credentials with sustainability, and we all have our opinions on it. But just being good designers and intentional designers, the biggest thing we have is the sun. So start there. And then the next thing would be like views, like what are your views out from the building? And it does depend on what the building is, you know. And, you know, while you're thinking about things like the sun, though, you have to think about, is this going to mean I can't do all glass? You know, so that's where, like, if you're in the computer trying to make those decisions, it's really hard. But you then just start adding layers and layers and layers. And then at some point, what we'll do is, you know, whenever we feel like that's right, we'll scan that in, and that becomes kind of the underlay for how we start building the building in the computer. That's cool. And with what we've been doing for for 5 years now, at least, is we'd like scan something like that in, and then we'd just AI the hell out of it. And this is before they even called it AI. We would just Excel spreadsheet the hell out of it, if then, which is how I view it. We would just if then the hell out of it and say, hey, if this is this, then what would this be? And we started, you know, letting that kind of show us some examples, like visuals, instead of spending time on Pinterest and sketching and drawing, and we could immediately look at 100 different scenarios, you know, and like, what would this look like if this were a New York skyline on this vacant lot? What would this look like if this were a Chicago brownstone townhome? And it's usually not to that range, because at that point we also know we kind of have a rough idea of pro forma. So we know that it's townhomes or a single family or a high rise. But nowadays being able to communicate and work through and learn together with a client, like how the building is shaped, which for us is a very collaborative process, we're able to test so many different ideas than we were before. So there's this, I mean, our level of confidence when we move from one phase of design to the next is 1,000 times what it was 5 years ago. And I had worked at firms where, like, you show up after 6 months of work on a project and you're like, here, client, here's your design. And you've got a board, you know, and they're like, oh, we love it. And they don't even know what they're looking at, which I learned too. A lot of clients, I was watching their eyes when we'd be talking to them, and I could see they don't really get it, but they're nervous to say they don't get it, right? So we've been using kind of advanced visualization tools from the get-go with being able to show a client things in different ways. So we'll show them in 2D. We'll let them put the VR goggles on, and then we'll realize they get seasick, so we'll have to sit them down and build. We'll build hand models. But every person thinks of spaces differently. At the end of the day, what gets built is black lines on white paper. I don't think the construction industry's at the point yet where they're able to build from a digital twin or a BIM model, like a 3D model yet. We say they say they can, but I don't. No one around here is doing it, and I can't imagine how you would track liability and accountability during that process. But that's something I remember being really excited about that 10 years ago, and it's not. I haven't seen it advancing. We have all the tools, we have all the cameras, and we've got the robotic dogs can walk through and measure everything for you, and we use all that stuff. But then we print it out on 24 by 36 or 30 by 42 white pieces of paper with black lines on it, and we have a spec book like it's 1890. So, you do all this high-tech stuff on the front end, and it's very exciting, and then you show up at the job site, and there's a bunch of dirty plans they're building from, and it gets built that way. But that's been an interesting contrast that I've not seen develop the way the rest of the technology to get us to that point is.
Sounds like there's some disruption there.
I know, when you get into there. Yeah.
I like to hear, so you guys do a lot of hand sketching, but I guess for the most part, architecture as an industry has moved mostly away from paper. A lot of stuff is done digitally. Yeah. I guess, is there still do you consider it more of an art form, or is it a lot of just, kind of putting lines together, making sure it's within the constraints, the setbacks? How do you blend creativity with the actual real world application of setbacks? Can we actually build this? Is it possible? Where does the line kind of fall?
That's done very early on with us. We don't want our clients to waste money. And the reason we do that early on, and the reason we don't want our clients to waste money, is because we want that money to go towards development, whether it's us as the architecture firm or they use another firm because they're not satisfied, which never happens with us. But I learned to do that because I was getting these projects, these failed projects from developers, and a developer will always call and be like, "We're not happy with our architect," and I immediately well, I don't think we're going to work well together. Because 9 out of 10 times, that's the developer is not doing something right, and it's not being communicated to the architect or their team, or those questions weren't asked early on by the civil team, which a lot of times the civil team, the surveyors, are making a lot of decisions they shouldn't really be making. They're already shaping the building because of these restrictions. They're saying, you can't do this, you can't do this. And I say, yeah, you can. It's just we got to get creative about it. The Martin on Main right back here, for example, was a failed project. It was like $45-50 million. It'd been shut down by the neighborhood. And I looked at it, I was like, I can do this for easily half of this and still be really nice. And I can get through zoning because it's communication. They weren't communicating it the right way. And we're big on, I think we are a very ethical, moral-based firm. We try to do things with honesty, and we try to build our buildings as if we were the owner as well. So we want to be, the design process is very respectful of the neighborhoods and the cities that they're in. We try to involve stakeholders early on. And a lot of times I find out that just wasn't being done, or the right questions hadn't been asked, or the right things had not been done in the right order. And so I started learning that's why some of these projects were coming through. That's what we started doing on the early part of our project. And what's interesting about, we're probably talking up the trace paper thing too much, but because we don't do it we don't do it nearly as much as I would like to. And a lot of firms do. I think all firms still do some hand drawing of some sort or model making. A lot of times ours is you can get so much information on the front end now digitally, and we take advantage of that. But then we also want to use our handcraft and use our human just common sense knowledge to also confirm these things. And that's where nothing beats, hand, pencil, and paper. And then being able to tell that story at the end of the process is also really, really cool to see how the thing shaped itself. But I think I'm probably speaking for, this will probably be controversial to say, I don't think of myself as an artist. I can draw really well, and I'm used to own a woodworking shop, and I can build beds, anything in terms of woodworking and hand drawing, but I don't do any of that anymore. For me, architecture is a service. It's a need.
A vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the client's telling us what we need, and we are communicating what they need so they can build it, basically. And we're just giving them what they need. Now we're not just giving a client what they tell us they want. We're almost, and a lot of times we end up being more like a psychiatrist for the client,
therapist,
or a divorce counselor for the client and his wife, or her husband. And, so that's where we wear a lot of hats, but the front of it, we're just trying to meet a need, really. And it's more of a craft than it is an art. Yeah. There are definitely skills that come with that, but that comes with experience, and not necessarily with age, or the amount of years you've worked, but really the experience, the amount of time you've been in the field.
Reps.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of reassuring to hear, because if someone thinks of themselves as an artist, like you're commissioning them to do work, so they're gonna do it at their own pace. It's going to be their work that they do for you, versus an architect looking at themselves as not an artist. It can be a better business relationship.
Right. Like the Belvedere project, that controversial one.
Yeah.
Like that's an artist, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So if you see like how it ended up and what all it did, that's because I was an artist. So
Heather Wick.
Yeah. Who's phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah,
phenomenal.
they've done
and
incredible projects.
And I wish there would be 100 of them doing that. That's that whole thing. Like I keep pushing some of these cities, Louisville specific, but I'm thinking like all around, just the lack of engineers and architects, and the lack of diversity, and not with gender or race or age, but just different types, the artists, the more technical ones. Like in Louisville, I feel like I could count the amount of qualified engineers on one hand, on half a hand base, actually. And there's really good architects in this town, but we could use double the amount. But there aren't, because we don't have the developers. We don't have the developers because we don't have the support and the resources to get developers to do things here. We don't have the support and the resources to do those things here, because we're in this like spiraling, bottlenecked, what do we do next kind of mode.
Yeah, we don't think big. Lack of vision, the culture's not right.
Yeah, if I hear someone say, you should look at Nashville skyline, all the cranes in Nashville
look
skyline.
at their building code too.
Yeah. Look at their Metro Council, right? Mm-hmm. And we do work all around the United States. I'm trying to say focus on like Louisville, but like the amount of money I spend on a bar here. Let's say someone hires our interior design team to do a bar. They come and say, we want the best bar, national level, blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking they're gonna want to DIY this. As soon as they say that, I'm like, okay. The projects we spend money on in Kentucky are about half the per square foot dollar they are in adjacent states. So if I built a craft cocktail, high style bar or hospitality or a boutique hotel here, $200 to $250 a square foot, at most maybe $300, and that's not me. I'll build you a 10,000 square foot or dollar per square foot all day long, if that were a thing. But I go just to Cincinnati, it's double that, because there's competition. You've got to one up the neighbor next to you that's trying to do the same thing.
The rents are double or higher. Right?
Yeah. But there's also the demand. So like in hospitality and food and beverage, like people are seeking out these nicer places. They want the experience. They appreciate design and craft, basically, whether it's the food, whether it's the experience. I can't get my restaurants to simply put in like audio system. So there's some nice sound control. I mean, it's kind of, so I hate having to tell my staff this, but we vet some of these early on because we're tired of getting butt hurt over them. We get halfway through construction, everything's cut and it's usually client based, and it's not their fault. It's that their demand's not going to justify the pro forma. And we work through, we don't nickel and dime people during construction. Like, we're an all in, we're here from the beginning. We value engineer. We're not charging extra for all that stuff. But there's just not that need here because I don't think people understand it because there's not the competition.
Competition heightens the play.
Yes.
And there's a lack of competition.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I was standing in front of the McDonald's on East Market Street 2 nights ago. I was on a night run. And I just kind of stopped there. I'm looking at the expressway behind it. I'm looking at the McDonald's, the tire shop that just closed. And, like, in my mind's eye, it's like I see murals and art and vegetation going up on the expressway, the McDonald's staying, and then a mixed use building off of that.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing?
I know.
You know?
I know.
That was just kind of like a little vision I had. It's like,
yeah.
It would be amazing if you felt like you could get a push on things like that here.
But, like, imagine if there were 50 people seeing that and then griping about it or going on a podcast or telling people or like going out of their way to get it done. That's like the lack of developers, or like create, like the idea origin is like there aren't enough people coming up with these ideas and then pitching them and putting them into place. And then who do you put them in front of to get these things done? And that's one of the things we do with framework is, and I'm not trying to push framework, but we come up with these, hey, what if you did this? And it's not a what if Belvedere Heatherwick. It's a what if you did a 12-story mixed use here and you did a flagship retail in the corner and
something logical.
But we're also like, turn to page 3 and here's how you do it. Here's the person that you call. They will do it because they have this fund that they're also looking for opportunities for art. The city is, I've noticed in the last couple of years, the city's definitely focused on this, and they're resource loading to an extent to start getting these things implemented. But, you know, there's like, I can count maybe 5 people that are doing the things kind of you're talking about. There should be like 20 because sometimes it's not waiting for the ideas to come to you, but we need to be asking the ideas, and we need to be asking them not in a public forum. I'm so sick of pitchfork hearings. That's one thing our firm does not do. If we have a project where it has to go to a public hearing, I'm out, you know, because nothing gets done when it's in a public forum.
It's a lot of lip service and, you know, from the people holding it. And then, you know, a lot of the times the people that are giving their input don't really understand what it takes.
Right. Yes, so. Exactly.
What type of RFPs are you seeing in specific to Louisville in present day in the current market? Is it more mixed use? Is it historic redevelopment? What are you seeing out there?
We're so picky about our RFPs. We can read into an RFP, whether it's like a fishing RFP, they're just looking for free work, free ideas. I think the issue is that there are no RFPs. You look at City of Louisville's website, I don't think there's one like for construction RFP. Maybe there is. I don't know. I would know about it if there was.
I guess a better question would have been what sort of projects are coming to the table.
Oh, like
RFP.
So I think the downtown Rebecca Fleischaker and the downtown development and Jeff O'Brien, the city administrator, and I think the city in general, they've been talking about downtown post-COVID for 5 years, or during COVID and post for a long time. But I'm seeing that's actually turning into action items now. So there's been a big focus on the downtown conversion to bring residential downtown. It's the chicken and the egg thing. You know, we need more people downtown. Well, we can't have our restaurants closed at 5 o'clock, right? Well, our restaurants can't stay open past 5 o'clock. There's not people coming to them. So that's where someone has to jump in and take the risk.
The bodies, you need warm bodies in the area.
And a lot of my out of city developers that aren't from Louisville, they come in and they don't know a lot of that kind of political mix up, and so they look at it like, oh, this is great. It's a great city. Like if you come into the city of Louisville, it's fantastic. You love it. The traffic's great. It checks all your boxes for a business moving in, especially downtown. But then if you go walk around like Wednesday at like 6:00. Like there's people walking around, but they have nothing to do. You know, we have a great convention center. We need tons of hotel rooms. We need tons of housing. Everyone knows the needs, and they've known them for like 5 years. But then you're like, why is no one doing it?
A grocery store.
Grocery store. Which, you know, grocery stores are another beast. The requirements to get a grocery store in a location is so high. You know, the Mid-City Mall, for example, we test fit. I can probably talk about this publicly now, but we had test fit 3 different grocery store chains there. Like they reached out to us and said, can you use that test fit, which is actually a program. We don't use test fit, but it's our framework, and work with the civil engineer and see if our standard grocery store will fit here. Piggly Wiggly, Food Lion, any of them. And they all have their own specs and they have their plans. Like, here's what you need. And they're very strict. If it's like one parking spot off, they're like, nope, move on to the next one. And those are kind of broker-based decisions. Everyone's trying to see what they can put in front of the company. And we did that for 3 different ones. They fit perfectly. And they had extra space on the back where they could, you know, sell off to a developer to build.
An out parcel.
Nothing. They didn't. Thanks, but you know, we got paid, but thanks, they didn't approve it. It didn't meet all the requirements.
And that was Metro?
No, that was the private. Yeah, so I learned very quickly, like grocery stores have such a strict requirement for their land and the use and the demographics and the amount of traffic. I mean, you're thinking about Highlands, like that, it hit all the boxes or checked all the boxes, but there's something about it that didn't work. And so some of those stores just went on the East End because it's easier. There's a big lot, there's land, there's room to breathe.
Corporate structure inside of the box.
Yeah, and I get it.
Let's
right?
not take risk.
Yeah, I get it. And I don't think a giant grocery store is the right location, right thing for there anyway. I think what's there is a good. But you know, also I think people think of development as permanent. You know, oh, we're gonna build this this will be here forever, and I think of it in 3-year terms. Like, okay, whatever's here now is going to change in 3 years. So let's design it so that it can, and let's design in a way where it can be renovated, or it can be expanded on, or it can change its use, so that development and the economic cycle in a neighborhood or in a city can happen naturally, like it wants to. You know, it ebbs and flows, and let it do that without having businesses have to shut down and put boards over their windows. Yeah. We've seen that with downtown Louisville too. We moved our firm to downtown because I've always wanted to move downtown. Since I left downtown in like 2008, and then, you know, moved to Charleston and worked in downtown, worked right on King Street downtown. It was gorgeous. Talk about bad traffic there. Moving back to Louisville, I was like, I really want to move back downtown. And so we did, and absolutely love it. There's so much to do. Our employees love it. It's amazing.
Do you live downtown too?
No, I live in Audubon Park by the zoo and by Audubon Country Club. A really cool historic house that talk about, you know, in Louisville, everyone knows each other. We're probably related, I bet, somehow or another.
Somehow.
And the house I bought, because it was like from when I moved back, we got it for like pennies on the dollar. I bought it again with the criteria. I need this to be this location. It has to be this dollar per acre or whatever, you know. And I found this site. I found this lot. Or this house. It was really run down. It kept coming on and off the market. And my commercial realtor was like, that means that you need to make an offer like as is. I'll take it. So we did. They accepted it. And then we've been renovating it and finding that this was a really old house. It was built in 1910. And the Audubon Park neighborhood was built like after all the floods that they were having downtown. And there's newspaper articles about it being like high. It's like elevated. You don't have to worry about flooding. And because there had been floods before, there had been floods in the 1800s that were really, really bad. And I found that the architect who had done my house is Brenton B. Davis, also the architect on the Louisville Gardens and Bradford Mills, which I did, and several other projects around the city I had been the architect on. And I was like, this is creepy.
Synchronicity.
That's weird.
And all of his projects, like he did the Pendennis Club, all of his projects are really big, stone and brick. They're very monumental, government feeling. He did like Western Kentucky's. He was referred to as the mountain architect or the hill architect or something. This was his first I don't know if this is the story, but I picture it. this house is like, looks so different than anything else he had built. It's a little bit Craftsman style, but before Craftsman, a little prairie style, like Frank Lloyd Wright. There's some Asian details on it, like Asian joinery details on it. And I picture like, and he lived there for 30 years. I picture like he finally gets to do what he wants to do as an architect and like use his actual style. Cause you don't see that anywhere else on any of his other projects.
Huh. So you think
Bleeden lives in one of his houses too.
Andy?
Yeah. So, it's just fun how things kind of come full circle in life, you know.
like we're sitting in a building that you designed.
So when was he an art?
Which that's my 3-year thing. See,
Yeah.
it's like we're totally different than what we designed it for, but it works.
Yeah. When was he an architect? Like, what was his time period of being alive?
Like late 1800s through like 1940s, I think.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Something like that. Yeah, I'm probably off like 10 years one way or the other, but somewhere in there.
Close enough.
Yeah.
And you're thinking this was on the latter part of his career.
Yeah, I think he died in like 37.
Wow.
And the house he built in 1910. It was actually the development office at one point for the city of Alden Park, which was kind of neat. But yeah, I'm big into history. Not that I've always liked it. I don't know why. Not that I'm like, I'm definitely a preservationist, but more for the purpose of like longevity, less about like, I want to restore things, or preserve things, not just to preserve it, you know.
It's been there for 100 years. It's not doing anything. Leave it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like with shotgun houses, I've done historic tax credits on 100 shotgun houses. I've restored some of the last like Victorian red brick shotgun houses. Do you think that architect that built that, or the mason at the time, because they didn't have architects back in the day, that's kind of a newer. The masons and the craftsmen became the architects and the engineers. It grew into this like very structured industry, and I might be off by like 100 years on that stat, but I know like in our training, I was always impressed that like cathedrals and Renaissance, medieval, Baroque, all the periods up until just a couple hundred years ago, really a few hundred years ago, the masons were the architects. And then you can start getting into Freemasons and stuff like that and get really, really exciting. But I love the industry, and I've always wanted to be an architect. Like I was saying, my first drawing as a kid was a building section with a green highlighter of a senior, like a nursing home, because my grandma was in a nursing home and it was really sad. So I drew like a 10-story nursing home, but it had a open air like atrium in the middle and a zoo. And palm trees.
You were trying to lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, I was 3.
Breathe some life.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I was 3. My mom found it, and she mailed it to me, and I scanned it in and ran it through some AI rendering software and had it turn it into like actual buildings. And it's so ridiculous.
Is that framed in your office?
No, I need to frame it. It's sitting on top of a stack of the kids' drawings next to my. But
Jumping back to the history a little bit. We have a lot of Victorian architects, Beaux Arts, right? Yeah. Why do you think we used to build that way? The ornamentation, the columns, and like, what do you think the purpose was behind that craftsmanship, or is it artisan?
Yeah, well, I think that's like, it could be like, think of anything like that. Like I found I love like old tools, and I found a old pocket knife from the Belknap campus. And it was like a free pocket knife that they like gave, like when you ordered like a bike or something from there. Cause Belknap made like everything. It was like a Sears
hardware family, right?
Yeah. But I mean, they did facades, like, all kinds, they did anything you can think of that's metal, they did. And that's where like one of their factories is where the Humana building is, and that family was big on like training craftsmen. So like they built schools like the Belknap campus, which we did with Wilkinson, just won an AI award. But this little pocket knife that they gave out for free is like, it's like the free sticker that you get if you buy something on eBay now. If you bought like some tools, they would throw in this pocket knife. This thing's like the most gorgeous. It's like hand stamped. The blades are like super sharp still. I've never sharpened it. And and on each blade, there's like special thank you for your purchase. And it's like hand etched. And I'm sitting there thinking this probably I bet they spent like days making each one of these little things just to give it out for free. But that's like, because that's their pride in their product, and they're showing off their craftsmanship, but they also want to build for durability and for longevity. And I don't think we have that need anymore. Like, to your point, you know, some of these brick shotgun houses, a lot of them on the West End, the molding and the entablature, like above the doorways, is so gorgeous. Even out here, like this on your door, I forget what they call the little sticks with the balls on them. Like, like, why did they do that ornamentation? Some of the ornamentation was to hide or to like make it feel nicer. So it was like, faux. You can't build the 2-story, so you're gonna add a bunch of ornamentation to it. But shotgun houses weren't built to last 100 years. Like, never did that person think, I'm gonna build this to last 100 years. It's just things were nicer. You look at the studs, they're really 2-inch by 4-inch studs, and you can see there's like 30 years of old growth rings in the stud. And when we do historic preservation projects, we zoom into that level, because, for example, you can calculate ceiling joists that are wood to be that old growth, depending on the species, actually can withstand certain ratings of fire. And if you go into any old building, any old church, anything that's like 100 years or older, you go in the basement where they had boilers, you'll see where they had major fires. I don't think I've ever walked through a big building, a big, warehouse, industrial, or even a church where there had not been at least 1 or 2 major fires. And so that's the thing, is like they knew they need to make this safe and durable and solid so that it can withstand the elements. It can withstand fires from the boilers that are being fed from coal. Now you don't have to design for that stuff. Instead, you're relying on your 1 layer of drywall to provide your fire rating. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you just had people proud of their craft, right? Like, there are still a lot of really good craftsmen out there, but there aren't people paying for their product, and then that stems back and go further and further, where like it was required that you could do this, what we look at now as decorative joinery, for example. That was how you had to do the joinery at the time. And what we might think of as like, wow, this is a really nice joinery detail. Look at this mortise and tenon with this rod through the middle. And they used a different species of that. That wasn't like for decoration. That was just for utilitarian purposes or utility purposes. We don't have to do that now because a nail will do the same thing. So there's so much to it. And what I wonder is, like, in another 100 years, what's it going to look like? Do we even have architecture? Do we even need it? Or are we all just in a bunch of pre-engineered metal buildings because you're just there for 3 years? And, so I get excited about that. It terrifies other people. I've always been really excited about like when I'm 80 or 90, if I'm 80 or 90, like, what am I griping about? Like, oh, kids these days, I'm excited about what that ends up being, because I think it'll be really, really interesting.
I think it's my favorite. I'm not obviously an architect, but I like architecture, and I watched a documentary on Sagrada, Família, and Gaudí and how he designed that. And I remember when I went to Spain and looked at it, I was like, this is wild how it
definitely like machine built or 3D printed or something.
It looks like something only AI. Yeah. Now that I know what AI is, could because I saw it a while ago, but it just looks like something only AI could imagine. And then I watched this documentary on how he designed it back before computers. Right. Like, you couldn't even draw something like that, but he hung chains from a ceiling and then would place weights on it. Yeah. And it was all upside down.
To get the arcs. Yeah.
To get the arcs and the slope. And then he also knew, okay, well, if I like weld this together and flip it upside down, well, then I can test the weight and if it can hold itself. Mm-hmm. And like, it was just all like chain models that you would hang upside down, design it upside down, thousands and thousands of chains, and then basically melt it all together to where it's solid, flip it upside down and look at it.
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's cool.
And when you look at it, next time you look at pictures of it, it looks like a building that like melted upside down. That's what it looks like. It was hung. It's the most wild thing ever. And
so he's like basically building, the physics, like the structural physics. He's actually building like that graph that you would use to calculate arcs and things like that.
Without any computers, calculations, or anything. It was just like, okay.
And what's crazy to think is that's a new building, newish.
Still building, yeah.
Like if it weren't still being built, which I think it's supposed to be getting pretty close to completed, but if I took one of my kids there, they would think that was like a medieval construction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's what's pretty cool about it.
Contrast between the original, because I was in Barcelona a couple 2 years ago.
Gaudí's my favorite architect, by the way.
Love it. Yeah.
It's night and day.
Yeah.
The sharper, more in depth on the original structure, and the other is a little bit more. It looks almost like cast. It's kind of more curved, and it's very interesting.
Right. I could see them be like, all right, man, like at this rate, it's gonna be like 2,500 before you're done. Like, let's figure out some ways to speed it up a little bit. Which that's the thing. Do you look at some of these medieval, like Notre Dame and all that? Like those took hundreds of years to build, or 100 years to build. I might be wrong on that, but at least I think about 100, something like that. And I'm like, how do you like some of these castles and things that took forever to build, generations and generations? You're like, why? Like, imagine me now. Like, I want to build a big office building, and I don't even know what I could do to it to make it take that long to build. Right?
Yeah.
People just had a lot more time.
They didn't have TikTok and Instagram and Netflix. So like the technological revolution, the industrial revolution sped things up. You even look at the way a park bench was designed 100 years ago.
But their desire to do that, knowing that they would never see it completed, that's crazy.
To inspire beauty and reach for something greater.
Yeah.
It's like a trophy too.
Yeah.
But you can even look at our churches we build now compared to the churches they built then. Like a lot of that period architecture was, religion. It was reaching up to the sky, the heavens, and look what we build now, and it's like covered in ephes buildings.
Yeah,
but it's just that's the need. That's what people want, and that's the need, and that's what you give them.
The world has gotten very fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be faster.
Yeah.
I saw like a post, and it just showed like, parking bollards or just street bollards back in the day versus today. It's like this just perfect stainless steel cylinder with a flat top versus like back in the day it was cast iron with like a horse's head on it.
Yeah, it had a schnauzer on it. You can see his whiskers.
Yeah. A lot of times I say things that are like contradictory almost on purpose. I'm kind of in a constant state of devil's advocate just because I always want to mix things up. But I think the most inspiring architecture I've seen recently, the one that like actually jaw dropped, was the Avatar ride in Disney World.
Really? I
haven't seen it.
Yes. And it wasn't the ride itself. It was the queue leading up to the ride. And my wife was like, will you stop already? I was driving her crazy.
Just go.
Every stanchion, there's like the little 42-inch poles, and they have a chain that's like on each side of your walkway.
Yeah.
And that walkway is like half a mile long. You don't realize it, but that's how they make it feel like you're on the ride, so you don't feel like you're waiting in a line. Every stanchion was different. So they're cast iron or some sort of cast metal product. And each one was different. One would look like a curly walking stick. The next one would look like a machine with like rivets and all this stuff. And everyone was painted different. I mean, thousands of them, thousands.
Amazing.
So then I'm on my phone like, I can't imagine how much this would cost. I can't get my clients to use just a steel. I can't even get them just to use a metal, or a pre-finished aluminum handrail, for the love of God. And here they are doing this. I'm on my phone, like looking up, like, how much was this a cost? And I'm like counting all of them. And I was like, just these stanchions was like $4 million on that project. Oh. And that was with Disney's builders building it, because they do like a discounted thing. So for some other purposes. But I was like, the reason they do that is because there's a need. There's competition, But then I started wondering, would no one else notice this except for me? I mean, I was with a group of like 10 people. No one noticed it. No one around me. I'm sitting there like talking to my wife, and I'm telling Nella, my oldest, I'm like, do you see this? And she thought it was interesting too, because she started helping me count all the different ones. But everyone else around me no one's even looking at and paying attention. And I'm like, why did they do this? What a waste of money.
It's like,
right? They do this just for me?
Probably. No,
but
it's
that's
in their
the craft.
subconscious.
Yeah, it's built into that's how we do things. This is what we're about. This is how we're making these rides better. And we're standing out from our competition. And, but they didn't have to, So that's the same concept with everything, I think. Even to like the drawing sets we put out for construction. A lot of architects just fill up their drawing sets with typical details, general details. Instead of showing you like, here's the fire stopping detail you need to use at this location, they just include 7 pages of all the fire stopping details. And then the owner gets this really big 100-pound set of drawings. Wow, this is really good. And you start flipping through it and you're like, this is all just a bunch of bullshit. There's like nothing good in here until you get to the very end. And then the details that you're actually supposed to be building from they're not even the right way to do it or the best way to do it. That's like kind of how the world is. You can crank out so much data and information now that the craft of less is more nowadays, more than ever. And I don't think people still realize this, but what you are putting out there to build or what you're actually building, it's not about how much, it's about what it is, because things are getting watered down universally. And I do architecture, but most of my day is figuring out taxes and contracts and hiring. Like I don't know when the last time I actually drew a building. And that's what I like. I've never liked drawing a building. It's actually very stressful for me because I don't have the boundaries, like the bumpers telling me, here's the criteria that's shaping it, whereas some people do. A lot of people are really good at putting that vision of the client, that's where like the artistry comes in. But I'm really interested in what the next 3 years, as I think technology or as the industry can catch up with the technology that's coming. I'm really interested in what comes out, and I think is universally or across the United States, people have been talking about the importance of their downtowns. Every city, but you assume since there's a successful downtown, they're not talking about it, but they are, and that's why there's a successful downtown. And I think the next 3 years, watching how that emphasis becomes, or that problem is starting to be solved, I think it's going to be really interesting. Mm-hmm. And even the financial and banking institution, I think is always trying to play catch up and prevent risk, which is good. They learned some lessons in the last 10 years, 15 years. But in architecture and construction and even development, we are like 2 years ahead of what you're hearing. So like when the bank's like, oh, we're going to hit a recession, or we're going to flatline, which we are right now. We're flatlined. And from the data I have at my company, it'll be until Q3 of this coming year. And it has no effect on us because we do all different types of projects. But, when you hear something from the bank or banking data, or you hear things, and this isn't exactly accurate, but it's my perspective on it. It's all lagging data. I'm already a year ahead of them. They're finding out about this when I'm almost done with construction, or when I'm getting change orders done, or when the refrigerators aren't showing up for 150 units. A lot of the work on a project from the architecture and the engineering side is done before they close on their loans. And so we're working with a couple banks they're actually helping us, and we're giving them data on how to communicate that to their investors, their boards, and how can they use that to like learn and get ahead. I love that kind of thing. I don't know why. It's nothing to do with architecture really. It's just data. Mm-hmm. But it's that whole, like, we have data, document it and make it something actionable so that we can like improve and get better. And there aren't enough people doing that, I think.
Have a bunch of AI agents doing it for you soon.
Yeah.
It's coming.
We built our own, like I was saying, we kind of built our own proprietary process with our framework division. We did that because And that was to test fit. Really, we did it because when we were offering to cities and clients to do that for free, like, let us show you your need so that you can start doing things instead of everyone just complaining. Everyone complains, but do it. Like, someone do something, you know? And there aren't enough people doing that. But when we would go to cities as just our architecture firm, we never really got the full commitment, the full buy-in. We needed their time. We needed their resources of time to work with us, and we would show them, here are all the things you can do, and we can help connect you with who can do them. Because it kind of felt like a conflict of interest. They didn't want to commit to an architecture firm like that. So we separated that out as a pre-development and strategic planning department and pitched it that way. Same idea, it's just different name and different approach. Now we're doing it across 50 different cities. And in Bardstown, for example, we pitched it to them. And then we now have 6 projects with private developers. Some were the architects, some were not, that are underway. Some are actually in construction, some were but it then focuses to the address and to what needs to be done. But and that's just our firm doing this. Like, imagine if everyone was doing this, like, how much more could be done? Because I keep seeing this bottleneck of, it's not that they can't, it's they don't know what to do. And I'm sure there's a term for that in the industry, but the people, the architects, the developers, just the creative minds like yourselves that are thinking of those things, there aren't enough of us. And then we don't know who to show it to or who to tell it to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you have a cool project, it's like, who do you take it to?
Right. And then
take it to the city first for them to swat it down, or do you take it to the neighborhood first to get them on your side, and then the city just swats it down? It's like, either way.
Yeah.
I learned the other day, we were at planning and zoning. We bought some lots in the land bank a long time ago. We got one missing lot. We heard that they're going to change the zoning from easy one to residential. So we went in there to ask why, or like what we could do. And it was just interesting, their approach. He's like, well, we have the authority to change your zoning, and you can sue us if you don't like it. And I was like, whoa, we're not here to, like, go back and forth with you at all. Like, this is how the guy walked up to me and approached me about it. I was like, look, we're here to collaborate. Obviously, you guys are having a meeting about how you're going to do this project next week. We just want to see if we could get ahead of the game to work with you, collaborate, figure out how we could maybe go ahead and buy this lot that you guys spent $40,000 to tear a house down.
Changing the zoning code. They keep thinking that's the solution, and it's not. And the bad thing is that you ask any city, is that the solution? They'll say absolutely not.
Yep. Yeah.
And we think, just change it.
What is the solution?
To understand why it's in place first. Understand why it is easy one, because they want to allow everything, but not to. There isn't a decision maker. There's no one down there that's like, this is a good project for the city. You're good. Go for it. They'll tell you that in person, and then you submit your paperwork, and they won't back you up.
They're not spending thinking time on it. They don't care. They're not thinking about the next 3, 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 years.
Yeah, there are people down there that, like, get it. They understand that, and I think there's 3 of them, and that's it. But then you have Metro Council of 26 people that everyone's interests are different, just like my interest is different. But I think that's one thing we're trying to work on with the whole process of planning and design, zoning department, all that is how do you determine when it's a good project? It's a good, authentic project. It's great for the neighborhood. And how do you do that without taking a year and wearing out a developer so he moves somewhere else? I mean, we've had just this year 3 big projects go to Southern Indiana because of that. Several of my big developers.
They're downtowns too.
Yeah, some of my big developers are doing things in Nashville and around Nashville now because of that. It's just it's not that it's easier, but it's more straightforward. It's clearer, and there's just a general positive perception on like helping you, right? And if it's I don't think any developer goes in and is like, I'm going to build something so ugly and horrible and outscaled in this neighborhood because I'm just a mean person, right? You got a pro forma. It works. They get the land for free for some reason. And I think educating people to why decisions are being made, then they understand why it got to that point, and then they can be part of the conversation. But what's happening is, like, we're getting to we're getting to the level we're waiting for our approval, and then we need a pitchfork meeting. I had a project that was like a $30 million project get shut down because the neighbor said people were going to piss on his privacy fence. Literally.
That's insane.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 4-hour zoning meeting.
See, this is where, like, the more I hear those crazy stories, it's like, if I have a piece of land in a project, the first project I do is going to be something they actually hate.
Right.
And then the second project is going to be what I was going to do the whole time. Because if I came out and was like, strip club, it's coming right next to Lake Forest, it's going to be the biggest one in all of the country, and, like, act serious about it, and then it's like, all right, you guys shut that down, good job, I'll just build apartments.
Yeah.
It's like, that's almost what we have to do. Oh, I'm going to put a battery plant right next to Lake Forest. No, don't do it. We're happy with apartments. Okay, I'll put apartments.
Just red herring them.
It's just like, that's almost what you have to do nowadays, because, I mean, heck, even grocery stores are getting blocked, and it's like, aren't you complaining about not having a grocery store?
When we first started out, I didn't know what like a zoning attorney was. I didn't know what a historic tax credit attorney was. And we were doing all that ourselves. And then I started making connections and learning about people. And that's the most important thing about this business, I think, is having the resources. I had a teacher in college tell me that the most important thing for me to do in architecture is to have good banking relationships. I was like, wow, I've got PNC. They're great. They do my personal taxes, or I got my bank account with PNC. Why do I need? And I didn't realize how often you have to connect people together, and you have to know who's doing what and who wants to do what, because you get the right people, the right personalities, and the right drive together, it's dangerous and it moves so fast. But you get the wrong person in there and it just shuts the whole thing down. We actually have a blacklist at our office of contractors, engineers, and individual people, most of which you all probably know, that it feels like their job in life is to just stop a project. They keep showing up in our projects somehow, like, oh, by the way, this person's going to be helping on the development team on the front end. Like, we're out. I like literally, we're not doing it if that person's involved. Because I've seen, we need to be learning from our mistakes. Like when we see that has been a problem 3 times in a row, stop doing it, and move on. But people don't. They keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Insanity.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. You all have seen it too.
We're going to need that list, by the way.
If I showed you, you'd be like, oh, I knew that already.
Yeah, we probably might have some similar. We don't have
we could share
a blacklist, but we have our people to prove wrong list.
I just want things to
contractors.
I just want things to move.
And urgency.
Yeah, let's do it. Like we have the people wanting to do it. Let's go.
Yeah,
I love that personality. That's a great personality in real estate, and I'm sure it leads to a lot of frustration just because
it does.
Real estate's might be the slowest moving industry.
It's like playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think we do need more people like you in this industry, because a lot of like the status quo is, oh, it's going to take forever. And like, let's start it and we can talk about it in 2 years when, you know what I mean? It's like we've all just accepted our city sucks to develop in.
Yeah.
And we're just going to keep operating that way.
Yeah. It's like, and I think people get confused between the word patience and complacency. I think people should be impatient. I think you should be hot and mad and steaming and in a productive way, like every second you're alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just call it, like anytime someone's like, you're just impatient, I'm like, but it's justified impatience. That's what I would say, because it's like I could show you why. I can show you my pro forma on why I'm impatient.
Yeah.
And I think if there were more people that were impatient, more people that were bothered, like the things that you see happen in all across the U.S. with architecture, people aren't bothered about it, like Trump's building the Grand Hall next to the White House, his grand ballroom. What do you think my position is on that?
I'm gonna guess you think it's stupid and a waste of.
I think it's amazing because to your red herring idea,
I'm wrong.
I think I know what he's doing, but I also like, let's mix it up, right? Like to me, any change is good change, because I'm just so tired of things being so complacent. Yeah. And I do think our White House is actually sad. And I think if he hires the right architecture team,
it could be cool.
That would be awesome. It'd be great. And I'd do it on both sides. I don't know if he can get historic tax credits on that though, but yeah, like that. Now you're creating some competition, right? Now you've got this $4,000, maybe $4 million a square foot, whatever it is, ballroom. Now the other ballrooms are going to want to step up their game, right? So anything that's radical, I like mixing things up. And
shoot them an email. Say, have you getting historic tax credits on that? I might be able to help you.
I should send them. I should send them our portfolio. Tell them
you never know.
I'll do it for half the competition.
There's been many times where you know, just as a general lesson that we've learned, because we're still young, learning business, and haven't been in business as long as you have, and you're still young. But one thing we've learned is, like, we'll see a news article, and a lot of times you see something like fresh news, and you might think, oh, I should reach out to that person, and you don't.
Yeah.
And boom, it gets listed. And like, there's been so many times where we've not let that stop us of like, oh, this restaurant's going out of business. Let's call the owner now.
Yes. Yeah.
And then boom, we talk to the owner and he's like, yeah, this is horrible. Like, I need a tenant. Or they tell you, no, I already got it figured out.
Yeah.
Go away.
We've
and
won some listings and closed some deals that way.
Exactly. I could see architecture being a lot of the same way of like, you know, you might just hear the murmur of like, yeah, I'd like to build a hotel. And it's like, well, you got a piece of land already? Like, here's this site I know of. And you could just pop out of the woodwork and be like, I can help you.
Yeah. It's just trying to find the need. And a lot of times people don't even, like, that person doesn't even know what they need yet. So anyone offering for help is if it's not that project, it'll be the next one that they'll use you on, you know? But I think, like, how can you do that? So a lot of times when that happens, like, the project has already been tarnished somehow. Business First has done a post about it, you know, ragging on it, which is another story. But, you know, a lot of times by the time I find out or they come to me or I go to them, they've already been taking the wrong steps, or they've already lost their excitement about the project. It's like, how do you get to them faster so that you can really help guide it the right way, whether it's a real estate transaction or design, whatever it is.
Yeah. But yeah, what I'm hearing is energy is very important.
Yeah, for sure.
The energy.
For sure.
Well, what, are you good on time? I don't know how long we've been going.
I'm good on time.
We've been rolling.
How long is it?
An hour 18.
Okay. We can we'll roll into the blitz questions, and then if we keep talking after that, that's fine. But just to get them out the way is if business meetings had a walk-up song, what would your walk-up song be?
Are you saying this because you heard about my 40 under 40 thing?
No.
We might have to look it up,
though. This is a how-to business
We ask this every episode.
I'm trying to think of the song from, oh shoot, I can't think of the name of the Disney movie.
Frozen?
No, it's the one, hey, Nella, come here real quick.
We got a guest appearance.
Yeah, I love it. First times this has happened.
Come over here. Shut the door all the way. Should she sit here?
Yeah, she can sit right there.
What's the name of the Disney movie with like the big sister that's like under pressure? I'm the strongest. Encanto. So there's a song from Encanto. Is that song called "I'm the Strongest"?
I think so.
There's a song from in the movie Disney movie Encanto, and it's like the big sister is like under a lot of pressure from the family, but she's like the older sister, so she kind of takes it all in. It's a great song, and I got awarded the 40 under 40 last year, and I was like 39 3/4, so it was like really close. And they reached out and were like, "What do you want your walk-up song to be?" And I was like, "A walk-up song for a 40 under, like to walk up on stage and receive a little plaque." And it's a big event, you know. There's like 1,000 people there, or whatever, maybe more. It's a great event. I love that. I think that program is awesome, and it's been a really good way to connect a lot of like-minded people that are completely different industries. And so I told them I wanted my walk-up song to be Encanto, or from the Encanto, "I'm the Strongest" song. I can't think of the name of it. And they're like, okay. And then, so I thought it'd be kind of fun, like kind of cute, you know, walk up to a Disney song. Because I thought I thought it was supposed to be kind of fun and lighthearted. and I thought everyone else was going to pick like Jock Jam songs, you know. It's like, this will be fun. And of course they put me in the very back, like in the very back table of this huge 1,000-person ballroom. And I'm also like one of the last people to go. And I realized very quickly that like people are taking this very seriously. And they're all like legit, like meaningful songs. Like, and each song is like very custom to that person. It means a lot to them. And then, you know, it's my turn. I'm like, man, what did I do? I was like sweating. And then the Encanto song comes on. I'm like, Jesus, I had to do this slow, embarrassing walk up to the stage.
You got your like menu like covering your face.
One of the other ladies that was under 40, she fist pumped me like halfway up because she knew the song. She had kids. So it made me feel a lot better. But I was, so
That's memorable.
It would probably be some Disney song. I'm sure it would.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's fire. What's one book, or if you don't read, what's one, obviously you read, but if you don't read a lot of books, what's your favorite movie or one that's had the biggest impact on your life?
Oh, movies are hard.
Movie or book?
Book would probably be, there's a Art Gensler of Gensler Design or Gensler Architecture.
I've heard the name, but no.
He has a book that's like, it's like not the art of the deal, but it's like the art of the industry or the business or something like that. It's a little red book. And I've read that thing probably 6 times. And it's literally just common sense things he's done and also like mistakes he made. And he passed away a few years ago. But you know, he grew a firm of nothing to like 1,000 people, maybe more. And when you look at their statistics on, you know, hiring and the amount of time people have stayed at that place and how their business has grown so rapidly. It's basically like lessons, you know, and they're spoken in common sense terms. So it's not like a business book you go through. Because I'm always looking for resources. I'm always looking for like tips and tricks from like the old guys, you know. And a lot of times the business books that actually people know about are kind of junk. They're like, you look up who wrote it and you're like, well, you know, he sold a tech industry or something. He doesn't know how to work. He doesn't know how to hire, you know, people, deal with HR and stuff like that. So that's one of my favorite ones. And I also have one that's called Who Not When, I think. And it's a little book. And it's really good.
Cal's reading that.
Yeah.
One of our partners.
That's a good one.
That right now.
Yeah. And like when I read a book, they're probably out in my car. One of them's right out there. I write in it and I put tabs in it and stuff like that. And then I'll pass it to like someone who I think can read it. And sometimes people will be like, you should read this. And I try to tell them like, no, that book's kind of dumb, but I don't want to discourage it, you know? So I try to recommend like some other books, like Traction, that whole thing. Like it's all right. But I think reading any book that's based on someone with real experience is I mean, I sit there and take notes and I start sometimes I won't do any of the stuff, but I watch it. Like, does that apply to us or it just lets you think of things from a different perspective when you're watching it, knowing that someone else ran into it already. And now you can watch out for it. That's been really good.
And then our third blitz question. It's been a crazy week. You've been putting out fires, fighting tornadoes. What's one activity you do to decompress after a long week?
Hang out with the kids when I come home. We like to go on walks at night.
Boom.
Our neighborhood's really awesome. It's like really tree covered, and at night it's like really dark. And we'll wait till it starts getting dark, then we'll go for a walk. I like doing homework with the kids. And then the kids keep me busy, so we're always doing activities, board games. We bought a game last night, it's like a keyboard, it's a cardboard keyboard, and it's got like 8 little rubber cats, like inflatable cats on it, and each cat you squish and it makes a piano key note. There's fun in it. So just that sort of thing. Yeah. I'd like to, I think when things settle down a little bit, I think I'll probably get back into woodworking too. Or like that.
Nice.
So
Awesome. Love it.
boring stuff.
That's not boring. I mean,
Less is more.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we don't have families yet, but getting to the point where it kind of just, it sounds nice to have a family rather than not to have a family. You know what I mean? So.
You fill your time with something,
Yeah.
Like I was busier without a family than I am with a family because I had all these other things I was trying to do, woodworking, and I was a professional cyclist for a while.
Oh,
all this
okay.
stuff. Yeah.
Have you done the Ironman in town, or just
You would know if I had, because I would have started that I do Ironmans.
okay?
That's
okay.
like a joke with triathletes. But
Yeah.
that's how do you know a triathlete?
They got an Ironman
Don't worry, they'll
tattoo.
tell you. Like,
Yeah.
Do you still find time to get on the bike, like get out and ride?
I do with them. That's actually probably one of my things I like doing too, is we go on bike rides. But
Sweet, yeah.
yeah, but now it's on a cruiser bike with like a wagon. That
You got
kids
the
sit
dad
in.
bike?
Yeah,
I love
for
it.
Sure.
You mean you guys aren't clocking like average 18 miles an hour on your family rides?
I did take them on. We went hiking, camping at the gorge a month or so ago, and it was my favorite trail. It's called Oxear Ridge, and I hadn't been on it for like 4 years, and they had changed a couple little connectors. And next thing I know, we're like 6 miles into a hike with all 4 kids and just me.
Wow.
And so it was a long hike. But yeah, it's a tough hike. And when we finished, I was like, man, what 4-year-old can say they did a 6 mile? And I make the kids wear their own backpacks and carry their own stuff.
Wow.
So like, what 4-year-old can say, or what 10-year-old even can say, or 11? Sorry, I don't know their ages anymore. Can say
There's a
they
lot
did
of
a
them.
6 mile hike. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
Was
My
she
dad
pretty?
was the same way. He would make me. I would pack my bag. It'd be all heavy. He'd be
Yeah.
like, "You got to carry it the whole way."
you're gonna learn, son.
And
Yeah.
I'd
taking some
unpack
stuff
it and be all mad that I can't bring all this cool stuff on a hike. He's
Yeah.
like, "You don't need that toy on the hike."
Yeah.
Play with a stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great, Mitchell. I
It's been
appreciate
fun.
learning more about work architecture and
Thanks
gonna
thanks for having
continue
me.
to see your all's work everywhere.
Yeah, hopefully.
No pun intended.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We the gift bag I gave you, like we try to have fun with stuff, right? And we made some swag bags for the office just to hand out to clients, and instead of saying like work hard, play hard, we put work medium, play medium. It's stupid, but
I like that.
it's
That
fun.
was
It's different, right?
Yeah. Our little slogan is make one day today.
Yeah. And it's funny. We
Like that.
handed a guy a
Oh,
folder
yeah.
after a showing yesterday, and he looked at it and he starts make one day. It's like make one day today. And he's like, "Oh, I thought it said make real estate great again." It's like, yeah, I don't know about that.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's a wrap.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks
so
for
much.
having me.
This
It's
was fun.
Yeah.